Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. You think about it, we rant about it. Listen to us live on Facebook.
Hello, everybody. It is Monday, July 5th, and we are excited to be here with you while we have some technical talking in the background from my good friend David Solomon. David, what are we ranting about today?
Well, Stuart, I got to tell you, it's an amazing thing how the world works. Depends on what side of the divide you on. You can't believe that people can actually prosper even during a crisis. And there are people who are in a personal crisis over the fact that people made money during a crisis. All right, enough with my craziness. Here's the deal. Let's be realistic, folks. Okay. When we look at the COVID that just transpired over the last 15, 18 months, call it wherever you want, we lived through a period where people made money. And a BBC report came out and said millions became millionaires during the COVID pandemic. And they were saying that while people were getting poorer, which was true, the number of millionaires increased by a whopping 5.2 million to 56 million global millionaires, according to Credit Suisse. All right. In 2020, more than 1% of adults worldwide were millionaires for the first time. Now, let's be realistic here, people. When we're talking about millionaires, that is, according to my financial friend over here, on paper. They didn't have cash of $1 million. A lot of it had to do with stock values. A lot of it had to do with personal wealth, and they became wealthier. Now, here's the crazy thing. People were losing their minds during this COVID time saying that was not fair. So let me pose this question. How many of you during the pandemic registered for Zoom? Hey? How many of you? Anybody? Okay. According to the numbers, if you bought Zoom stock, if you paid $1 for Zoom back in the beginning of the COVID, within a year, guys, your stock went up 425%.
Yep.
If you don't think that the people at Zoom made some coin this year, and that's thanks to you and me, because we all registered for Zoom. All right, let me take it another step further. People are pissed off at Jeff Bezos. Son of a bitch, just left his job at Amazon as being the CEO.
And now his wife just left him too.
Well, I know, and he lost half his wealth and whatever. Did you, by the way, how many Amazon packages did you buy in the last year or so? I can only imagine that you all went out crazy. You know why? Because stores were closed. And we still had to go buy stuff. So Amazon, who's the leading e-commerce company, in a year went up 14.85% in stock value. They're now valued at $3,500 a share. Now, I'm not a financial expert, but I got to tell you, if I put money away and made 15% in a given year, and this is a year, 12 months, right? I didn't go back to more than that. But if I look at that, people, the reason they made money is thanks to you and me going out shopping. A lot of them did that. Now, there could be some criticism towards the government, and there could be all that kind of stuff. But Stuart, I got to tell you, when I saw this article, and I want to thank these ladies from the UK who are friends with my sister, who sent me this saying they're angry. They're upset by this. And I'm saying, hey, Stuart.
Yeah, I gotta jump in on this. Okay, let's first understand this. The founder is a guy named Eric Yuan from California, the famous San Jose, the Silicon Belt of the United States. And that stock, as you see on this chart, had a high of $492.
Yep.
And if you look at where it was back in 2019, it was a mere $62.
Yep.
So yes, David, someone who bought that made a piss pot of money. And, our good friend Michael Bloomberg, he made 15%, 14.4% during the pandemic. And I hate to tell you, David, he didn't just own Amazon. He made money doing all sorts of things. And, there are hundreds of people on this list. I strongly recommend, and I'm not an advocate for USA Today, but you know what? Label all these guys. Buffett made 20%. You know,
Sure.
Michael
don't-
Dell made
Guys,
60%.
Guys, what
Eric
is
Yuan. Oh, one second. Now we're taught. Now we see Eric Yuan. This is the guy from Zoom.
Yeah.
He made 304%,
Right.
$16.8 billion.
Okay,
So,
but let's backtrack a second for Buffett. Why did Warren Buffett make some additional money? What's he invested in, people?
well, Warren Buffett, and again, if you like myself in finance, I look at this guy and he is a man that has basically walked on water and been above reproach, given his money away multiple times and made it all back again.
But what's he invested in, Stu?
Well,
Like,
so
what's one of his biggest?
hang on.
One of his major holdings?
Warren Buffett added to his portfolio in the last few years technology stocks where they never had Apple, right? They never had Apple. He was. It's a separate rant. Let's not get into the life of Warren Buffett.
But wait a second. No, but Stuart, one of his biggest holdings is a small company called Heinz.
Well, Heinz is something that he bought about 4 years ago.
Right.
It was kind of funny, actually, David. There's a funny story behind Heinz. I actually started buying Heinz for client portfolios about 2 months before Warren Buffett got out. And I'll tell you, all my clients that I bought it for think I walk on water like him because they made a piss pot of money. But you know what? Listen,
my point of why am I bringing that up is he invested in food supply, which during the last 15 months.
Well, he's always invested. No, that's not his basis.
No.
He is a guy that bases investments on the last mile, and there's no one that's going to create a brand like Heinz in the near future. No one's going to create a railroad in the near future.
My point. What I'm trying to say is, my point was that you can't fault the guy for making money because, listen, let me tell you something. I bought food stocks, and let me tell you, what did you guys like? I'm going to ask you. Forget food for just a second. Does anybody own paper products as a stock? Do you understand? Like, did you all of you nutcases out there who cleaned out the shelves last March, April, May of toilet paper?
You use the N word.
No, nut jobs.
Calling people nut jobs. It's
because
not nice.
You're right. I'm
names.
sorry. You're cashew jobs. The reason I'm trying to get to that point is that you accelerated the economy with these insane purchases. Toilet paper went off the shelves. And if you don't think paper companies made a ton of money off of you, now I'm a cyclist. I love to bike. I can't find a bike today because people bought bikes like no one's business. Shimano and other companies like that have no supply. Guess what? The price of a bike now is up almost 50% in some cases, and you can't even find stock of it. So are you blaming cycling companies for making money during a pandemic?
Well, okay. So David, I gotta tell you that a lot of money got made in a lot of different ways. And, as you know, I'm partners in a medical supply company.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you a quick story. I knew an attorney, and I won't mention his name, got into the business, South Florida Boca type, one of those guys, and fronted money for buying N95 masks. Okay. I don't know if they were 3M or what other brand, but he bought them at $2 and sold them at $4. Did I tell you he bought 25 million of them?
Stuart,
the attorney made $50 million.
But I got to tell you something. Good friend of mine works for a company that would supply PPE to dentists, and they shifted their entire production to accommodate the pandemic. They couldn't keep the stock fast enough, and in turn, they had to open up another factory just to supply. So why are we faulting people for actually doing the right thing? I don't understand.
But are we faulting them? I think that the politics, the news. Let me just say this: the news, the Hollywood elite, villainize everything that gets them ratings or gets them press or gets them
Well,
deals with merchandise.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
Kardashians were, they're following. I'm not a big fan of the Kardashians, but they're nice people like everyone else. They were on the record saying when they first started their program, right? The Kardashians, they were intentionally going to where the paparazzis were just so that they would be seen.
Mhm.
These people are not altruistic. They're not
I
pastors.
know that.
They're not priests. They're not saints. They're not rabbis. They're just ordinary scumbags that are just running around without remorse. It's easier to go, you're the problem versus looking within and going, what did I do wrong? Unlike most people, during the pandemic, I ran around providing people first care. Like they were doing lots of prototype testing here in South Florida. I
Mhm.
was providing them all of their PPE at a minute's notice, opened a warehouse at what it cost us. We put out hundreds of thousands of masks at
Mhm.
cost just
Yep.
so that masks would be distributed. But you want to know something? There's a reason why I'm showing this guy, right? So
Mhm.
this guy, during the pandemic, decided to have an inscription process where if you wanted PPE like N95s, you had to register with Amazon.
Right.
Amazon didn't do this to protect the people. It did it to build a list so that after the pandemic, as it is now, it is moving forward with a disruptive healthcare line, right?
Mhm.
Now they're going after all the distributors, McKesson, Cardinal, and they used the pandemic, to get the list of all the doctors, all the facilities. So now they have their own marketing list at the expense of millions of people in the world. So this guy who just got a 50%, haircut by his wife, still made $3.9 trillion and will make probably
No,
100 times
he
that.
didn't. He didn't make 3.9. All the billionaires made 3.9. Read your headline, buddy.
Oh, I'm
He made
sorry.
a lot of money.
Listen,
Look,
it's
listen.
it's Monday morning. It's a holiday here.
Yeah.
It's early in the morning, and we've been ranting.
Stuart, here,
I'm going to get rid of this headline. Boom.
But let me tell you something, if I can. Like, people have got to really understand that there's an economics. There's an economics, and to
There's
just
an economics.
we know that people made money during wartime, and which sounds unfair, and their world is unfair. Okay, there's like to make a joke about it. There's no cotton candy everywhere. It's all about that. So thank you very much for putting up the piece that I wanted to put up just right now. Literally, that's on my screen right now.
Oh, wow, is it? Look at that. Listen, great minds think alike.
I know, and or fools seldom differ. Depends on which angle you want to go at it. Here's the crazy thing. Take a look on the right side and where the money came from. The biggest gains came from Western society, Western countries. Okay, Western Europe, U.S., Canada. Those are the big money makers.
Well, Canada's towards the bottom of the list. Look who's at the top of the list: Switzerland, Austria, Sweden.
Not Austria. Not Austria. Stuart, Australia. Not
Australia.
Sweden, right. So you've got your Western societies at the top. Now let's take a look at the red for just a second. How come Russia, Brazil, Chile, Saudi Arabia, UAE are tanking? For one reason, people: oil. Let me remind you that 1 year ago, you paid a ton less for gas. Oil prices plummeted a year ago. Now they're going up. You don't think they're making their money now? They are. That's economics for you, sadly enough. The life isn't fair. We don't live in a socialist world where everything is totally equal. This is the reality.
There is no equal. There is no fair. It's all about optics and what's the agenda.
But here's the thing. I got to tell you, Stuart, one thing that really upset me was that I know that the wealthy people got from the Canadian government money during the pandemic. That's right. They got money from the government during the pandemic, wealthy people, because they were part of the program and And you're like, did anybody pay attention that they just gave? And it wasn't substantial amount of money, but it was enough of a token to buy votes. And that's exactly what the government did here. So instead of giving the money to the people who needed it, they gave the money to buy votes. So instead of getting angry at the millionaires and the billionaires, Turn your attention on the government and what they did during this pandemic, because my government here sat and made sure that people stayed home and didn't go to work. Okay? They paid people to stay home. I ranted about this months ago. Okay? And yes, millionaires and billionaires who went to work, who had a great e-commerce system, who put in an infrastructure, who had a supply of something that the government people needed, prospered. And you can't be angry at them.
You can't. David, do you know what time it is?
You know what, Stuart? I see by the clock on the wall that it's time to bid you all in, well, goodbye.
Wow.
It was a Wayne and Schuster routine from like 30 years ago. I just hit me right now. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back here Wednesday noon for another rant. But remember, guys, if you didn't catch us today, or you want to hear some of our older rants because something we said really got to you, go to our Facebook page, go to our YouTube page, go to our website. Guys,
iHeartRadio, Apple, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts.
Yes, folks, and if you love podcasting, you can actually hear, and you think that our faces are meant for radio, you can actually just listen to us. You don't have to watch us. We have a really good time doing this. So, folks, have yourself a wonderful day, and we will see you all on Wednesday.